Hello and welcome to this production, the Master Gardener production of Plants for the Plateau. I'm Carol Burdett and I'm your Master Gardener volunteer tour guide today. And today we're going to talk about one of the plants that most people ask about when they call in the extension office and they say, "My hydrangea doesn't bloom. What do I do to make it bloom?" Well, our first question is going to be, what kind of hydrangea is it? If we're lucky, it'll be an endless summer and they bloom. They're wonderful. Do you have one of these in your yard? I'll bet you yours is blooming blue if you've got acid soil. And if it's up near a house, it might be blooming pink. And it's the very same shrub, but it can bloom pink if it's in alkaline soil or if you put some lime down by it. Or it'll bloom blue if it's in acid soil. Same shrub. If you have one of the old hydrangeas, they really don't bloom very well here on the plateau. Old hydrangeas bloom on old wood, and the problem is that the old wood develops the buds in the late fall, and then over the winter those buds have to stay alive. Well, when we get a severe winter like we usually do on the plateau, it's going to kill the buds, and the next year you're not going to have the blooms. But if you get one of the new varieties like Endless Summer, you're going to have blooms all summer long. If you don't have, you might just have a little too much shade. They do need a little bit of sun to be this pretty. If you like pink or blue, we're all set. If you like white, we have that too. I cut this Annabelle this morning from my house. Isn't that pretty? So that's another one of those beautiful mop heads. And Annabelle blooms white. It blooms on new wood. Love that one. Just got that one a couple weeks ago. That's Limelight, which also blooms on new wood. And if you want a really big shrub, there's a wonderful native shrub. We get so many calls for native shrubs. This one is the oak leaf hydrangea. And oak leaf will grow about 10 feet tall, 10 or 12 feet wide. You need a big space if you want an oak leaf. But this is the one that most people like to use for dried flowers. And if you want to have dried panicles, remember the other one is a mop head, a nice round mop head. Oak leaf hydrangeas are one of everybody's favorites. If you're drying flowers for the winter time, it's a great one to have. It starts out blooming white, and I know this isn't white. We have kind of a pinky beige. That's what it dries to. And people always ask, what's the best way to dry hydrangeas? There's a lot of different ways. The easiest one is my favorite, is just cut them when they're, well, maybe just a day or two beyond their peak. Put them in a nice vase or in a bowl. I'd strip the leaves off because they're just going to dry up anyway. And then you're going to have some really pretty flowers for a while. Put them on a porch, kind of out of the sun. And as the water dries out of the bowl or out of the vase, the hydrangeas are going to dry up. And in the fall you can bring them in. If they're not colorful enough for you, just go get a can of spray paint. Give just a little spray over the top. Works great. There's a lot to say about hydrangeas, but we're not going to go on with that right now because we want to talk about crepe myrtles. Crepe myrtles are another one of everybody's favorites. And here at the Discovery Garden, we've made these bushes into trees. So you know when you go to buy a crepe myrtle at your favorite nursery, it's probably going to be a bush. You can buy trees, but they are expensive. Same thing, just takes another year of growth. Just plant them in your soil where it's well drained, and if you want to grow them into trees, cut off everything at the bottom. The next year you're going to have to do a little more pruning because they're going to grow some more little sprouts out here. It would be best if you could just break these off rather than to cut them off with your clippers. You're more likely to get the buds that way and they won't come back. Crepe myrtles are wonderful, but people are always calling and saying, how do I prune my crepe myrtle? Well, you really don't. You really need to buy a crepe myrtle that's the right size for the space. Because a lot of times people buy those wonderful little bushes and then in a year they're up to here and then they grow wild. They can grow 20 or 30 feet tall. So get a variety that doesn't grow 20 or 30 feet tall unless that's what you want. This one's Dynamite. I wish you were here in July. Dynamite will be covered with red blooms. It's gorgeous. And it'll only grow 10 to 12 feet tall. Now we do have other crepe myrtles out here that are miniatures or dwarfs. We have Razzle Dazzle, but really it doesn't do well on the plateau. When you buy a crepe myrtle, buy one that's good for zone 6. And don't feel like when you go to the nursery, anything the local nursery will sell will grow here, because that's not necessarily so. You need one that grows in zone 6. You know, I saw Ernie over here a little while ago in the butterfly garden. I think we need to head over there and find out what's going on in the butterfly garden. We have a lot of butterflies out here, Butterfly Discovery Garden, but Ernie is our specialist here. So this is Ernie Wood. We're going to ask him what's going on here. Hey Ernie, I came out here this morning. I was out here at 7 o'clock when there would be no activity. I thought I'd sneak up on some butterflies and get pictures, and there weren't any. Why?
Because the butterflies are cold-blooded.
Oh.
They, what it is in the morning, if it's a cold morning like we had this morning, it takes a while for them to get warmed up where they can even fly.
Okay.
And usually the hardest part of summer, you can come out pretty early and they'll be out here already. That's the biggest difference of all, is our cold nights.
Well, this is wonderful. Is this a butterfly house?
Yes, it is. And this here is a good demonstration to show people how small of a garden you can have that still attract butterflies. The whole thing to getting a butterfly garden is how many plants you can put in there. And there's so many different plants that attract the butterflies that you just can't go wrong whenever you start putting plants in. It goes everywhere from zinnias, asclepias, marigolds, verbenas, and that's just a few of the plants. There's probably at least 100 different plants you can put in a small garden like this. And the trick is, when you start your butterfly garden, is don't just get 3 or 4 plants. What it is the butterflies are attracted to a lot of color. So if you pack it full of like this, you're sure to get more butterflies than if you put in just 3 or 4 plants. And this is our newest garden this year, and all this was just planted in the spring, and you already see how much it's already filled out.
And the bees found it. We've got lots of pollinators.
Wherever there's butterflies, there'll be bees too. Yeah.
Great, that's great. Well, thanks, Ernie.
Oh, you're welcome.
The last thing that I'd like to show you today is our redbuds. We've seen these before. There are 16 varieties of redbud trees here. Whoever knew there was more than 2 varieties of redbuds. Isn't this one gorgeous? Looks kind of more like a bush than a tree, doesn't it? We have a picture coming up here of the tree this morning before it got pruned. We had a pruning workshop today, and we took out a big hat out of this one. There was a big long tree growing out of the tree. And that was a sucker coming up from the roots, because this is a grafted tree. But this is the way it's supposed to look. This one is floating clouds. You can come and see lots of different varieties here. Let's see, I think we have a picture also of this forest pansy redbud over here. That one also has, in the picture you can see this big green thing coming out of the top of it, and all of that was cut out. This is a project of the University of Tennessee, so some of their associates were out here this morning helping us with this pruning workshop. And this is where I want to leave you today. This is Carol Burdett signing off for the Master Gardeners. Thank you all for coming.